Hey, Walter Sorrells back with another Pops project in the month. This week, those guys are gonna make a knife and show you some tips and tricks. So normally in my Pops projects of the month, we just make one knife and that's it. We go from soup to nuts making a knife. This week, we're gonna break things up a little bit and who knows what we're gonna do, but we're gonna make a knife or some knives, and Joey and Dirk from Pops Knife Supply are gonna give you some tips and tricks that you can take back to your knife shop and start turning out really great knives with. We're not gonna make just one knife. We'll do a bunch of different things and just hear some different little tips and tricks. A lot of these will be taking advantage of particular tools or particular materials, belts, that sort of thing. That might help up your game as a knife maker. All right, let's get on with it. Now the focus today is gonna be exclusively on metalwork, primarily grinding the knife blade. We won't be doing the handle. Today it's all metal all the time. For convenience, Joey's starting with a laser cut blank.
I'm going to put 3 holes in these knives, or 3 pins. Put as many pins as you want to in there, but I like the super basic. Front pin, middle pin, lanyard hole. My front pin, I'm going to get a measurement about right where that pin's going to go. And I'm going to mark that thing all the way down and mark the bottom. Now, off the back, a lot of people will take that lanyard hole and they'll push that thing all the way to the edge. That's fine if you've got micarta or G10 or something that's not going to crack. But with wood, I like to have it out about, I usually go almost a ½ inch. My front pin, I like the little starter. My center pin is going to be in the fattest part of where those 2 lines met. So I want it right there. And again, this is just it's the way I mark mine out. Some guys like to put 2 pins up real close up here and 1 pin back here, or maybe pins on the corners.
Today's video is, of course, sponsored by Pops Knife Supply, your source for knife making supplies. Steel, including Pops' exclusive new Pro Cut, abrasives, including all major brands of 2x72 belts, handle materials like bone, horn, exotic woods, and Pops specialty micarta, and tons of knife making tools, including some, made by me. Pops Knife Supply. popsknife.supplies.
I always start with the 1/8 inch pin for pilot holes. And then it helps the 1/4 inch hole go through. So I can be a little more accurate when I'm drilling these holes. And that makes a pilot hole for whatever pin you're going up to, or you could just stay with an 1/8 inch pin. The cool thing about our drill bits is they're all perfect for the hole you're drilling. A .125 drill bit or a .125 pin won't go in a hole with an actual 1/8. So we use the number 30, which is about 1/1000th of an inch over. And that goes for all of our pins. The 1/4 inch is about 1.5 over. We actually have 2 different drill bits for a 1/4 inch. We got an F, which is 2/1000th, and a 6.5, which is about 1.5 thousand. So I like to drill my steel with the F and drill my handle with the tighter 6.5. Follow up with the 1/4 inch holes. And an F is just a little oversized. When you put a micarta pin or a stainless steel pin, you'll see that there's a little more wiggle room. So as we go here, I'm going to jump in and just point out things that I noticed. In this particular case, they've got this little clamp sitting here with a piece of brass stuck in it. You know, one thing that happens with drills is that the drill bit will snatch hold of your work, your knife, and flip it around. It'll helicopter, and having something to stop it from doing that is always handy, and this is their little solution to doing that. It's a nice, easy thing you can do that makes it a little safer when you're cutting. When you're drilling knife handles like this. See that? See that helicopter? There's the 3 pins I'm going to put in the knife. They're all 1/4 inch. And I'm going to get a little bit bigger drill bit to hit these lightning holes. This is pretty thick, it's 3/16. So go ahead and take another second and throw another drill bit in. It's a little bigger. So now that I've drilled these holes, every time you drill a hole, you get a little burr around the edge. We go in. If you look, the knife is not going to sit flat when I go to mark a center edge on it. This just knocks off that little raised burr. There we go. Now when I lay it down, it'll lay down flat, no burrs. So I'm going to put 75 thousandths on here. Lock it down. So I'm going to grind this off here in just a second, put a little 45 on here and do a little half grind. I'm going to do the same thing to the back of the knife because I'm going to taper the tang. So this little tool, the equalizer made for us by Walter Sorrells. What is this thing? Guys are like, is it carbide? Is it for fitting tangs? What's it for? I use it to cut my plunge lines. I can stop and set my plunge lines by eye, but I'm moving them back and forth and back and forth. This is the one that I made probably 6 years ago that I've been using. Belts will not cut on the side unless it's a Trizac will cut a little bit on the side. So basically I do the same thing. I've already drawn where my plunge line is. Some guys start the plunge line too far or too in. This helps you decide right where your plunge line is. So my plunge line is going to be right above my guard. So I want to put it right where I want my plunge line to start. I don't want a funky plunge line like this or one like this. I kind of like to square it up.
But it's dealer's choice. You can set it how you want it, right?
Exactly. I leave my 40 thousandths in the middle. I'm going to do the same thing on the back of the knife because I'm going to taper the tang on this. What this allowed me to do was start my plunge line exactly where I wanted them. Belts don't cut on the side. These ceramic belts, so this soft metal, it doesn't even really matter. It stops it right there, cuts the plunge line in, do the other side, cuts the plunge line in. I'm starting out with a perfect plunge line. And I'm going to turn around and do the same thing to the back of the knife. So I'm going to knock that 45 off, but I just do it by eye. Kind of see where you're cutting into that.
So to carry on preparing for tapering the tang, what we want to do is we want to hollow out the center of the material. What that does is it removes the amount of surface area that you have to grind away. Now you have to be careful. You don't want to grind your hollow into the edges. You want to keep it into the center. So what happens is you're basically going to grind smaller pieces on either side. Now, you're running a small wheel, you want to run it real slow, because the faster you run it, it'll burn out your bearings, but it also gives you less control when you're grinding. Now, you don't want to grind the hollow all the way up. You want to kind of stop at the first hole and at the last hole. So yeah, as much material we want to remove as quickly as possible, because that's going to be glued in there. You won't see that ever. So we've done that on both sides, and we are ready to start tapering the tang.
So here's the idea behind this jig. This is a grinding jig, so the idea is that it allows you to maintain an exact angle every single time that you're grinding. There are all kinds of complicated jigs that are adjustable, and it's really great because you can adjust very minutely exactly the angle that you want. But sometimes you just want to grind an angle and have it repeatable and easy to do, and that's what this is for. So you got 4 angles ground in here, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And there's a little ledge here. You just sit the knife on that ledge and grind it. When I first made these, the idea was that I would put it on here and I would use a clamp of some sort to hold it in a fixed position. And what I realized is you don't need to do that. You can just hold it and it works just fine. 2 key points about using this. One is you do have to get it in the ledge.
Yes.
It's very easy to drop it on the table and then you start grinding the wrong angle. You don't want to do that. You can use a clamp, and if you use a clamp, then you're going to be more assured of always being on that ledge, but you don't need it.
If you use the clamp, you gotta clamp it down, then you gotta unclamp it, flip it, grind.
And this is the problem with all jigs, is there's a lot of rigmarole involved in it. There's 0 rigmarole here, and you slap it down there and you start grinding. And that's the whole idea, is you're trying to make this as easy as possible. The other point about using it is you always want to hang the tip off the edge. If you don't, it'll end up grinding that corner, at least on a lot of situations. So I hang it off a little bit, just grab hold of it, start grinding.
So when Walter first handed me one of those, I was like, cool, what's that? And he explained it to me, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. So got back here, started playing with it. It works fantastic. I even shot him a message and said that, that's a pretty cool tool. What I like about it is a lot of knife makers don't realize when they get warps, they are grinding their bevels unequal. And they're like, my knives warp the same way every single time. So I've been using it to do my pre-grinds with. You see, I've already did my 45s and cut those off. So looking from the top, I can see where my plunge lines are. And I can do perfectly equal. I'm going to freehand grind the rest of the knife after I heat treat it, but also for the new knife maker, it's fantastic because the new knife maker is going to put the hardest thing for a new knife maker to do is to establish a flat. So with this, I don't want anybody to use a jig all the time because you can't grind certain knives, but I can get a nice flat on both sides. So that's important. You can push it right up into the plunge line. It's a pretty nice grind. And I know the other side's going to be exactly the same. I'll just flip it over.
So this is, we call it a tang tapering jig, but you can do all kinds of, it's just for grinding stuff. The basic idea of this is that it's got some little magnets and it's got a pin that you can put into the tang of a blade. Let me, Joe, you got that? So this allows you to stick that pin through here and then hold it like so on the platen. In this case, Joey's going to be showing how this tang's tapered, and that's what he'll be using it for. But you can use it almost like as a poor man's surface grinder. There's just a lot of cool stuff you can do with this.
Okay, so we're going to surface grind this knife. Just assuming we had heat treated this knife, and this was scale. It's got a little rust on it now. But how are you going to get that off? Some guys would be like, well, soak it in vinegar or sandblast. You don't have a sandblaster, or you don't have vinegar, or put it on a mill and clean it off. This thing acts like a little bitty mini surface grinder. I pop the knife into the 1/4 inch. If you don't have a 1/4 inch hole, I got another hole right here that I have pushed in now for an 1/8 inch pin. I could grab one of these pins. but I'm going to go into the 1/4 inch. There's magnets going all the way down through here, and these magnets will kind of center the knife up. So I just want to say I wanted to finish this knife out, and I'm going to clean that off. I don't want to land here, I don't want to land there, I kind of want to land flat. Now I can keep going and remove all of this. I started with a Trizac A100. I could have started with a 120 grit belt and cleaned it up really good and then put this belt. But it's just a real simple way to take your knife. And you've got burrs from your holes, you've got burrs from grinding it out. All that's gone. You've got a flat surface. And it's super simple. So we've got this ready to taper. We've beveled the end. We've left about 40 thousandths here. We've hollowed out. We've got our lightning holes. We've hollowed it out. Now we're going to do just like we did a half grind here, we're going to do a half taper. I don't want to try to get the tang perfect on my pre-grind. I want to harden it, get most of it out, and then straighten the knife out after. So this little pin that's on here moves back and forth. You use your pin up, you get another pin. Pop it in. When I land on this belt, I don't want to land flat. I don't want to land way down here. I want to land about right there. I want to start on that little hump there and kind of start moving up. Perfect. See, this line's starting to come up a little more, and this one's down here. Kind of push in on that side a little bit. Looky there, now it's starting to come up and my lines are about equal. So, Walter, you see how that stands out down there? It differentiates this line between that line. So I can always keep an eye on this down there and see how far I am from the end. And I can go all the way on this one because I got 40 thousandths. After heat treat, I'll taper this thing down to 10 thousandths. Okay, we've got our pre-taper in. When we finish the taper, after we harden it, we're going to push it on up here so that our scale lands on a flat. We don't want to bend right there, so we're going to push it past where the scale, the top, is going to land. And then after we heat treat it, we're still pretty thick down here. I mean, we've got a nice taper started. Of course, it's just a pre-taper. When we get finished, we put some distal taper up on the blade, some taper down here, more taper. You'll have some really nice curves to it. Okay, we're going in now at about 1580. For a 10-minute soak.
Okay, so what we're going to show you next is one of my tips of how I grind in my swedges. Now, unlike Joey, I don't like making normal things. It's strange. So I'm always trying to come up with different ways of doing it. This has been heat treated, and one of the other tips is always write down on the blade if it's hard or not, because you can forget pretty easily. So what I'm going to do is I've set up my workbench at a specific angle. I generally eyeball the angle, and then I'm going to use that just to create my swedge. Now, I'm doing a dual grind. The swedge will be a hollow, and then the main blade will be flat. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to do that swedge first and finish it to as much as I can before I start doing the flats. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to follow the lines that I've scribed in. I'm going to grind right up to that scribe line, or just before it, before I change to the next grit.
Is this 60 grit?
That's just a 60 grit, yeah. And as you can see, it gives you a pretty consistent grind there, which you can then repeat on the other side. So these are one of the new belts that we've just got in. This is a belt that Joey has been working quite closely with VSM for multiple years on. It is our Supernova that we love our Supernova, but it has a felt-backed backing on there. So some of you might know the Deerfoss felt back that we sell. This is now our Supernova that has the felt back on there. Now, there are a couple of advantages. It stops belt bump completely. It's a great product, and we're going to use it now just to clean up that swedge that I just ground in. So same process. I'm just going to use my work rest as a guide and just grind in and clean up those bevels. So that's a 120 grit finish, and there's the 220, which is a remarkable difference. And that was just 2 passes.
So this is the knife fresh out of the temper. Of course, loaded with scale. I didn't coat it. I wanted it to decarb because the knife is way inside of there. We've still got to do the complete grind and finish the taper. So I used the super wheel. If you guys haven't seen our super wheels, we've got them in various grits. And I'm just going to clean the edges off. I can center line the top now. Center line the cutting edge. And find my center for my taper. Okay, so now we are heat treated and tempered. And I'm going to, I've got my little half grinds on here. Now I've got a center line instead of those 2 lines. And that's going to be my edge. I always mark the top 2. That way I can control my distal taper. We'll grind in the bevels and then we'll finish the taper. So I get Walter's plunge line guard, the equalizer, and just put it right back where it was. Just right where it was. We're out of the temper. We've got our bevels ground. Just got to clean them up. Now we're going to finish the taper. We're about 40 thousandths down here. So we have a true center line now. And we're going to go in and cut this down to a very thin taper. So what I'll do is I'll cut it with this 60, and then I'll move to a 120, and then I'll start cleaning this up a little bit. So as I'm cutting, once I get to the end, I'll start kind of rocking up here, and it'll roll that belt up here on these flats. Okay, so I've got this taper cut. You can see it's probably about 25 thousandths now versus 40. And I'm watching this center line the whole time I go up, so I know I'm nice and symmetrical in the back. I push my flat up past where my scale is going to land. This is a 60, and then I'll move to a 80 and clean up the rest of this little flats here. I land on my flat, and then I grab the tip and I kind of roll the knife down. That rolls the grinder down on this flat. I'm cleaning up this whole flat here. Okay, now I've cleaned these flats up. The last belt was a maroon surface conditioning belt. I went to 60, 80, A100, and now this is a maroon and then a blue. And this will be a really nice finish on the flats. If you want to keep going, you keep going. You can polish them to 2000, but when I get finished here with this belt, it's going to look really nice.
So next step in the process is we're going to round the spine. Now this is a trick that was taught to me by Bertie Rietveld, my mentor, one of the best knife makers in the world. He makes dragon skin Damascus. Go check out his work. What Joey's done is he's decided where his handle is going to stop. We've taped that off, and what we're going to do is we're just going to round the spine. Now we use a wheel with a little bit of a scallop in it, and we'll do is we'll run it up and down. The trick being that you want to run it, you don't want to just leave it on at one side, you actually need to run it up and down. Well, it changes the geometry of the knife, makes it a lot stronger, but it also makes it more comfortable to use. You don't have any sharp edges that's going to cut your thumb or cause any hot spots.
Okay, so now we have cleaned up our flats. I don't want to scratch them up, putting my equalizer back on there, so I just put a little tape kind of right up to my plunge line. And oftentimes I will put back on and come a little bit below where I was before and clean up. That way I know I'm cleaning up the whole plunge line in there. I'll come down just a little bit below it. I like that. Look at it, make sure it's nice and square, and go in and start cleaning up my bevels with 80, then probably jump to a 220. If I'm getting symmetrical on both sides, kind of recut my plunges just a little bit. I wanted to push them back just a hair. They'll stop right there, but just getting it nice and straight, getting my edge straight, my plunge line's clean and straight, and then we'll put the final finish on. Okay, now I'm putting the final pass on here. That's a 120 with a Pops Pro Touch. This is, of course, the felt back belt. This belt, like Dirk said, helps you land. It's got a nice soft landing point, and it also, you can put a little bit of convex. You can rock on there just a little bit so the blade's not completely flat. It makes it pass through flesh and material and cut so much better. So I've got it really squared up now, really cleaned up. I did a 120 Pro Touch to finalize it, and now this 400. Hanging off on the edge a little bit, that end will roll. When I get into my plunge line, it'll roll a little bit. I'll hang the belt off a little bit and you'll see it kind of roll up in the plunge. It's kind of rolled up in there. It's hanging off about less than an eighth.
All right, so what exactly did we do here? I say we, really I didn't do much of anything here. This was all basically Joey and Dirk, but tapered the tang, put a nice bevel in there, drilled out this, this tapered tang, really went through a pretty complicated process of, you know, one belt after another to get to this really nice, beautiful, smooth finish, and then rounded the spine. And so now it's ready to put a handle on here. The cool thing about this knife is that this is going to be raffled off at the Pops Fall Festival, which is going to be on what date?
October 25th.
October 25th. It's going to be a time, so come on out and see all of us here at Pops. And, you know, it's for a good cause. This is going to be raffled off for charity. So. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I learned a lot of stuff today, and I hope you did too. And so keep on making those knives. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.